It all started on a normal day in UA High. Todoroki was asked to take care of a house that a friend of his father's, Benji, lives in. His father told him that Benji was going to be out of the country to see and visit his old home and see some of his family. He was going to be gone for a few months. Todoroki didn't know the guy very well. He only saw him a few times when he was 12. He also didn't like or trust the idea, but he decided to do so anyway. He arrived at the house, and Benji showed him around. The house is pretty nice. Fancy living room, nice front yard, and it was close to UA High. As Todoroki was looking around, he noticed there was a padlock on the door to the basement. When he asked Benji what was in there, he just told him, "There's nothing important in there, just some personal items." Todoroki didn't think anything of it at the time, as he didn't really know him. Benji was pretty much a stranger, so he didn't really have any suspicion on Benji keeping his things locked away. The first night, Todoroki woke up about 3 a.m. to get a drink of water. As he was heading back to the bedroom where he was sleeping in, he heard a strange noise coming from the basement. It sounded like something was being dragged across the floor. Todoroki thought it was just the wind or something in the house making noise, as that happens sometimes. The next night, Todoroki heard the same noise coming from the basement again, this time waking him up. He got out of bed to concentrate on the noise. He couldn't figure it out. He just couldn't figure out what the noise was. He thought maybe it was a bat or something. There wasn't really much Todoroki could do anyway, since the basement was locked shut. The next day, Todoroki decided to call Benji, asking him what could be making noises in the basement. He just said, "Oh, it's probably nothing. Maybe just a mouse that got in there or something." For every night, and the 2 weeks, Todoroki could hear the same noises coming from the basement, and it woke him up more times than ever. One night, Todoroki had enough. He got some bolt cutters and cut the padlock off and opened the door and headed down there. When Todoroki was down there looking at the basement, it was dark. And I mean really dark. He couldn't see a thing. He had to go back up and get a flashlight, since there was no light switch and all the light bulbs in the basement were burned out. When Todoroki got back down to the basement, he couldn't really see much. Mostly boxes, some pieces of wood, and a few gardening tools. As Todoroki was looking around, he tripped over some boxes, knocking them over, as some photos fell out. Todoroki put the flashlight down to pick up the photos. As he was putting them back, he looked closely at one of them. It was a child tied up with a monster mask on his face. Todoroki thought it was sick and odd. He didn't know anyone who would be into that kind of thing. Todoroki looked through some more, and it was the same thing. Just children tied up with monster masks on their faces. Then he came across another one. This time, someone was next to the little girl. It was Benji. The child looked like she was in a lot of pain. She was crying. And it looked like she was screaming while Benji looked... I don't know. He just looked like he was laughing while holding a cleaver right up to the girl's face. Todoroki couldn't believe what he was seeing. And his heart started racing as he was scrambling through the photos, looking at more and more and more of these children being tortured by Benji. Todoroki's blood turned to complete ice. And not by his quirk. Todoroki was about to head upstairs, and he was gonna call the police, when he heard a strange noise across from the other side of the basement. The same noise that's been waking him up almost every night. He slowly wandered over to where the noise was coming from. There was a sleeping bag. It was covering something inside, and Todoroki opened it up. And he jumped back so hard and fell to the ground in shock. There was a young boy, gagged and tied up to the floor. He had cuts on his body and a black eye. Todoroki quickly ungagged the child, and he got the bolt cutters and set him free. The child was very weak. He couldn't really talk. He was dehydrated and hungry. Todoroki quickly called the police and the ambulance right away. He told the police everything, and they soon found Benji and arrested him at his old house. The little boy was actually reported missing about 5 months ago. Benji was sentenced and charged with kidnapping, torture, false imprisonment, and other things.